How's it going? My name is Ian Kaiser, and I will be presenting my decision project for the statistics class, which is named The Dilemma in Choosing Careers and the Statistics Behind Acting. The general idea behind this project, as it sort of explains in the title, is that my project is based around my decision within the next year, which is, should I pursue the career of acting? So we looked at the abstract. This was a general introduction and findings of this project. So the idea was that I was going to be doing statistical research on acting as a job. And I mentioned in the abstract that there was something that I wanted to mention, which is there's a lot of mystery behind the statistics of acting. And what I mean by that is that you have so many different variables that come into acting and getting a job in acting, whether it is getting a role. You have actors that are well known, like Tom Hanks and Robert Downey Jr., big names like that. They will obviously get a bigger paycheck than people that are less known. So that is something that I wanted to make clear in this presentation, is that there's a lot of mystery behind the statistics in acting. But my findings were pretty clear in the fact that acting, when you first start out, is challenging, no doubt about it. And there are steps that need to be taken in order to actually pursue acting. And one of these steps, or one of the main steps and the main thing that you need to consider if you are choosing to pursue acting, is that you have to have something on the side. Like, you have to have another job lined up, because when you are not in a role and when you are not making money in that role, you are unemployed. And that was a question of mine that I discussed later on in the actual article, is when you are not acting, or when you are not in that role, pursuing that role, are you unemployed? And I believe that the answer is yes, you are unemployed. So moving on. So this is the introduction to my research project. I'm not going to read it, but basically I go in to talk about what my decision in the next year is. I decided that I discussed that the decision project is directed towards people that are facing the same problems that I was and still am in this choice of pursuing acting. And these problems are: how do I get started? Where do I go? What should I do? I mean, these are questions that I still have, because there's a lot of unknown when you're starting out. The body of my decision project goes into research that was done, articles that I found, and these were articles that mainly were focused around the statistics of acting. So I looked for, it's funny, because the statistics of acting is very, like I said, it's a mystery, more so. So really quickly, I looked at the average earnings of actors, and I also looked at the average unemployment rate for actors, because I felt like that was important to look at. So I'll read this quote very quickly. It says that the average unemployment rate for actors, according to the Actors Equity Association, hovers around 90%. And I think that the exact percentage is 93%, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that there's some 130,000, that's a rough estimate, of actors in that according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So 93% of that 130,000 people are unemployed. And that includes the big names out there. So this brought up a lot of questioning that I had about the variables that are in play when it comes to acting. I think mainly the one that I discussed, which is, if you're not acting, are you unemployed? So I think that really plays into the acting industry, but there's so many films and TV shows that are being produced daily. New episodes, new jobs, all the time. But at the same time, those jobs are finite. So I think that questions definitely arise based on this, which is what led me to the conclusion that you need to have a side job. Because when you're unknown, you don't get roles as much. So I mean, it's challenging. But something else that I found is that the average earnings for an actor is, well, it goes into the next area of my research project, which is data collection and visual representation. Basically, data that I found online that is based off of the body. So I basically took the two most important variables and I researched those and found data according to those variables, which is the more important variables are the average earning of actors and the unemployment rate for actors. So I really focused on that. So for the average, I found all the data in the figures, and I wrote them up in tables and figures that are found at the very end. That is the data collection and visual representation. The descriptive statistics are statistics such as mean, range, mode, standard deviation, all of that, and those are based off of tables 1 and 2 from the previous section. And the mean and all of that is important to understand, because when you look at statistics, even if it is, even if there are a lot of unknowns in the acting industry, when you look at these descriptive statistics and you compare them to the tables and the sample data that you have, you can really narrow it down and narrow down the information that you're receiving and understand truly what it means and what it means to have that job. I hope that makes more sense. Is that if you look at the job of a lawyer, you think if you have no background information of statistics, you automatically think that lawyers, they make a decent amount of money. It's business, right? But if you have background information of statistics, you can look at a data set and you can look at information about that data set, about lawyers, and you can see why they make so much. You can look at information and decipher it and really understand it. And I think that is really important for any job. When you're looking at a job and you're looking at the statistics of that job, I think that's very important. The last section of this research project is the hypothesis testing and confidence interval. Something to be aware of. The null hypothesis that I had was that the average earning for an actor is above $50,000, and the alternative hypothesis is the average earning for an actor is below $50,000. So the way to hypothesis test for this hypothesis is to find the test statistic, and then use the test statistic to find the p-value. And then if that p-value is less than the null hypothesis, then the null hypothesis is rejected. The idea of hypothesis testing is easy to understand if you take the time to learn it. But I had a lot of challenges doing it for my data. I understood how to do it, but when I tried to do it with my data, it didn't work properly. So that is unfortunate. In any case, these are the references, and that is an overall summary of my research presentation, which is the dilemma in career choosing. So thank you very much.